All right. Well, thank you everyone for attending. This webinar is going to go into the new iMIS Power Automate connector. I'm joined by Doug Morris, who is the founder and chief product officer here at CSI, and I am JT Fiedler. I am the product and sales advisor here. We also have Jake. He will be monitoring the Q&A section. So if you have any questions throughout the presentation, feel free to pop them in there and he'll be able to address any technical questions or anything like that. So I'm going to put a few polls out there. The first one is just going to be the iMIS version you're currently on.
Don't be embarrassed. Answer. It's okay. And other unsure is a bad answer, though. Right?
Yeah.
Jake?
Well, you don't want to leave anyone out. So
Yes. It's a bummer. We can't vote. Hosts and panelists can't vote.
Interesting. All right. Go ahead. It seems like the majority are on EMS, but there are some people on 2017.
All right. Shout out to AP there. What were the totals, JT? We get to see them?
Are you seeing them now?
Yeah. All right. 70%, 31 of the 16 who voted. And there's a lot more than 16 on here.
Now we'll kind of jump into the next one, which is trying to gauge where your knowledge level is of Power Automate. Obviously, it is new to the iMIS space. However, you can utilize it without actually being on iMIS.
How they looking, JT? How they looking?
Looking good. The two choices that are the highest is we don't use it, but are very interested, and what is Power Automate?
All right.
I knew that one was I like that one. I'll go ahead, I'll end it, and then I'll share the results so everyone can see. Surprisingly, no one is a major user of the Power Automate platform. So interesting to see that. All righty. Well, just going over some of our 2017 and EMS friendly products. We have a cloud SSO, so seamless transition for members to have a single sign-on with your third parties. We're here to talk about Power Automate. The iMIS Data Management Suite, a recent stat that we found were that 61% of EMS clients do have a module within the suite. So really helping to allow you to do different things. Our iEmail product is the direct integration between Outlook and iMIS. Text Manager, we do have a texting product. So if you have a need for texting, that is an option. And then if you ever need or find yourself needing a larger event platform outside of iMIS, we do have the direct integration with Cvent. And
right.
Doug,
all 2017 compatible too, right, JT?
yes, all 2017 and EMS. So if you're on, those of you on 2017, you can implement them right now, and then it's a seamless transition when you migrate.
And JT, that cloud SSO, that single sign-on with all that's expensive, right?
No, it's actually a very cost-effective way to integrate with third parties and make the member experience that much smoother.
I think that is, I forget what it's priced at in either Australian dollars or New Zealand. I believe we discount it. We work with you on the exchange rate. I think it's about 70. Oh no, sorry, should be about $90 a month AUD. So we're
Yep.
trying to make this affordable for your integrations and whatnot. But let's show the really cool stuff, JT.
Well, I'm going to pass things over to you because 2017, it's an older system and you know more about it.
So don't forget, if you are on 2017, we do still make a host of products that can help you. If you're a fundraising user, we make our fundraising made easy. If you are still shipping and charging freight, we make a freight rate importer. And the other products you see on here are available. They are like, some will be migrating to EMS, some won't. It'll just depend on what happens. And we've gotten a lot of requests for iMerge and whatnot. But that's approximately where we are with our 2017 products. So I started the company in 1991 when I was 8 years old. Very exciting time. I like to tell people that, you know, we have none of our clients do bad things, right? All of our clients do have noble purposes. And that's what CSI is about. It's what keeps us going. We want to help you because your organization does great things. If you don't have iMIS, we're not working with you today. So all of our products, all of our consulting that we do in the US is all iMIS based. If a client came to us and said, hey, we don't have iMIS, but we think you're great, can you help us? It's just not what we do. We're iMIS focused. So on that note, we just want to make it better. If you've heard of Tony Robbins, he's a motivational speaker. He turned me on to a term, CANI, constant, never-ending improvement. We always want to make our stuff better. We want to hear from you. What do you like? What do you wish it did better? What don't you like? Please let us know. I am the #1 person that drives our dev team crazy. Jake will attest to that. I'm always asking for changes. And when they say, well, who complained? And I'm like, well, I did, because this stuff really means a lot to me. And I just always want to make it better. And what drives us at CSI is helping organizations. And the more that we help, the happier we are. So that's really what is why we come to work at CSI, even though most of us are at home. So what do we got now? Well, Jake on the phone actually won he was one of the winners of a, what was that called, JT, that ASI had? Hack Day. It was a hack day where they said, hey, listen, what can you develop to make iMIS better in one day? So the data management suite, I'll tell you right now, is about 2 years worth of full-time work into it. I think it's about 4,000 hours we put into it. And so Jake had one day to make iMIS better. And his entry was something that he titled the iMIS Experience Plus. If you're a user of IQA, you've probably gone into filters and you've probably forgotten to hit the little plus sign, and then you've probably sworn. And so Jake went and said, you know, I get annoyed when I have to do an IQA and I forget to do a filter. And then Jake can never just make one little thing better. He's always got to add a whole bunch of other things. So there's some really cool stuff we'll show you in here in a minute, as long as JT has it. So this is what it looks, by the way, keep listening because this is all free. Everything I'm showing you right now, you can download right now. I'd ask that you wait until the end of our presentation, but this is free. You'll be able to download it and make your iMIS better at the end of this webinar. So this is what your IQA looks like today. And then when we add the add-in, it's a Chrome or Edge add-in. Look, Jake's made it pretty. Okay, that's great, Jake. Thanks so much. You made IQA pretty. Well, here we go. We're going and adding a new filter, and there's that silly plus button in the bottom. Now, I'm red-green colorblind, but I'll tell you, this all looks gray to me. And so I miss that plus button all the time. Look what Jake did. He added color. You cannot even hit save until you hit commit here. So as you add a new filter, the commit button is all you get to click on. So I think that's really awesome. Saves a lot of swearing and whatnot. But then he really went and took it another step. So if you've ever added SQL to an IQA and you decide you make a mistake or you want to add onto it, You have to go copy the property. You have to uncheck it, untick it, sorry, and then go down and re-add it. Well, Jake said, that's just crazy. So guess what he did? He had a little edit button there. So now you just hit edit. And when you click on that, you can go and change your SQL right there. So really, if you're creating IQAs, we encourage you to download this add-in. If you don't like it, you can turn it off. And in order to get it, all you got to do is go search Chrome Web Store. And when you do that, search for the word iMIS. It's the only one out there. Or search the iMIS Edge add-ons. And believe it or not, they have two things called iMIS on there. It's really weird, but look for the iMIS Experience Plus. Add it to your browser, check it out. If you love it, would love to hear from you. If you're a programmer type, this is open source. We've made the ability to go in and edit this and make it better. We'd love to have other people make this better. If you are an Edge user, you probably know you can use Chrome add-ins. You don't even need to use the Edge add-ons. So some really cool stuff. Shout out to Jake for making everyone's lives a little easier. And that's really what we're about here at CSI, is we do want to make your lives easier, right? It's not just about making your members' lives easier. We want to make your lives easier too. So thanks, JT.
Yes. So we're here to talk about the new iMIS Power Automate connector. This is really going to drive you to be able to connect iMIS with a ton of different applications. And Doug, can you elaborate on how many there are?
Well, they're adding some all the time. Right now, last count, there were over 800. There's a few of them on the screen right now. And so we're going to ask you to wrap your mind around some of this Power Automate. And we've got a really cool slide up next that Jake has created that I think really shows all the stuff you can do. But you're not just creating an iMIS connector to, say, Excel or SurveyMonkey or Teams or Venmo or anything you see on here, right? That's Venmo, right? Or that's Vimeo. All of these things can talk to each other. So it's not, imagine iMIS, JT, that's a great idea. Let's put iMIS right in the middle of that screen, because now you're integrating iMIS with all of these things. It's not just iMIS to Excel. It might be Excel to iMIS to Dropbox, from Dropbox to Teams, back to Outlook. So all of these things are now interconnected. I'm really excited about this because all the barriers are broken. You can now not only just integrate iMIS with these things, but all these things integrate with each other as well. Jake's famous slide is coming up, and he likes to say that Power Automate is like Legos. I hope you have Legos down there. You know, if you were to pour out Legos in front of someone and say, build something, they'd be like, well, what do you want to build? Well, anything, whatever you want to build, you can do. So I had a person, I was just in London presenting, and they said, Power Automate is a solution looking for a problem to solve. And I love that, because whatever your challenge is, it probably can solve it. And by the way, I shouldn't say this because of HIPAA rules and whatnot. Jake would show himself and he would be talking, but he just had some surgery. And so that's why he's the silent man in the corner without his camera on. But Jake, thanks for staying up late in spite of your medical challenges and being here. So I love that slide. Okay, so we're still trying to explain what Power Automate is. And we're going to have some really cool examples for you. JT's got some stuff. But everything's kind of a flow in Power Automate. So Power Automates, we're going to talk about how iMIS fits here. But here's a real simple one. And we're going to actually show this later. Hey, when a gift is made over $500, go find out who made that gift and post a message in the Teams channel. Think about this, right? There was a triggered event. We'll talk about that. That could be scheduled. There's a triggered event that did other things. And what's really cool is each step in a Power Automate flow can get data from the other steps. So in this case, I can get the iMIS ID of who made that gift over $500, and I can post a message in a channel. This is a very simple flow, but I want you to get the idea of what a Power Automate flow is. Now, when we talk about how does iMIS fit in here, Well, think about this. Imagine in this whole ecosystem of connecting all these things that you could find, retrieve, how about create new records or update records, all in terms of context. That's pretty powerful, right? So imagine a DocuSign being signed, and we're going to go create a new record in iMIS. Activities are really important. We could find activities, same thing, retrieve, create, update. So imagine that same DocuSign's been signed and we're going to update an activity or create an activity. Pretty cool. Panels, if you've got panel data, user-defined data or whatnot, same sort of thing. Any data in there, we can mix, match, find, retrieve, create, update. Really cool. But now it gets powerful. And I will tell you this was hard. Jake would tell you too. We can go ahead and grab data out of iMIS using an IQA. So we can have the ability to run an IQA or pass parameters and do things. And then remember, Power Automate flows can be scheduled or they can be triggered. So what if every time a new order was added to iMIS or a new activity was added to iMIS, you could actually start a flow happening? Now, I have great news. ASI has a new, they used to call it webhooks. They've got a new name for it now that Jake could probably put in the chat. And ASI is going to be releasing this in the next couple weeks. And things that happen in iMIS are going to be able to actually trigger the iMIS Power Automate connector to do wonderful things. So today it's just activities and orders. Tomorrow you'll be able to trigger off a new record being created and whatnot. Change notifications. Thanks, Jake. That's what ASI is calling it. It's being added to iMIS EMS. Super cool. So these change notifications can start things to happen. You don't have to use a change notification. It could be on a schedule. Maybe every day at 2 p.m. I want something happening. I want it to be instant, right? I want to be able to click on a flow and have it go, right? Think of a SQL job or an IDMS job. Webhook or an HTTP request. Imagine someone going to a page somewhere and starting one of these flows. Think about like adding a OneDrive document or a Google Doc, or what about even receiving an email that went to your general inbox that could actually start a flow to welcome a member. And then on the iMIS side, we talked about when an activity is created or when an order is created, and then more things are happening. But really, as pointed out in that bottom corner box, the new webhooks that are coming, change notifications, if you will, are going to be able to start these flows as well. So imagine like you've always like, oh, I wish I didn't have to wait 5 minutes for that SQL job to go or that data management job. These things are going to happen instantly now, which is really, really cool. So
With that, I think it's time to jump into some examples or what the product actually can do, how it looks, and things like that. So in this first example, it's just going to be an approval process for new members. So we're actually going to be utilizing the Microsoft Forms to make the submission. Then we're going to use Teams to go through the approval process. Someone goes and needs to actually approve this prospective member. Then we're going to use the Power Automate connector to write an organization to iMIS, as well as bring in that individual. And then to top it off, we're going to have an Outlook email be notify a specific staff member with the iMIS ID and the ability to jump right to their record. So this is kind of a screenshot of the behind the scenes of what's going on. So we have that initial trigger of when a new response is submitted. Then what do we want to do with that response? We want to get this response's details, and then we're going to have someone approve it. So we are going to start and wait for that approval to come through. And then dependent on the outcome, we want, if they are approved, we want to create that organization. We want to create the contact. And then you can see this email, you can use previous things or previous steps. So we're actually getting the new iMIS ID, first name, last name from the previous step. So it's very unique. You can get a lot of data and you can actually act on a lot of things. And while I am saying this, it's probably better to show it. So Doug, you want to walk us through it? You're muted.
Oh, I muted myself because I was yelling at Martin. All right, so here we go. This is what we talked about. JT said, hey, when a new response is submitted, we're going to get those details, right? And then we're going to start and wait for an approval. And after that, if they're approved, we're going to go ahead and do some fun things. So this is a simple flow. There's our condition. So when the approval is approved, I'm not going to do anything if it's no. We could send them an email and say you're not approved. We could do all sorts of mean things to them. We're not going to do that in this demo. But if we actually are approved, we approve this member, right? We're going to go and create an organization record. And then in there, you can see we're actually making an organization record. We're going to use the email that they provided with us. And then we're going to create a person. And the cool part here is, look, we're actually going to link that person to the ID that was returned from the previous step. So I think this is really cool. So you can see all the different data we have available in this Power Automate connector for iMIS. Here's all sorts of data that can be dynamic. So after they create an organization, all this other data can be returned from that previous step, which is really, really nice. So if I wanted to find out the full name as created by iMIS or anything, but in this case, I just want their ID. We created an organization record. I want to use their ID and I want to attach the new person to that new parent organization. So this is really cool. And I love this. Let's look at it. This is using a Office form. You could use a Google form if you wanted to. It's just a free, sort of form if you have Office. And we're going out here and we're filling out Bob's information. He wants to be a member. We're going to ask some personally identifiable information, terrible stuff, right? But we're an age-based organization, right? Terrible example, but I thought it was funny. And now we're going to go ahead and submit. And hey, Bob wants to become a member. Thanks so much. Now, guess what? We get a notification back at headquarters saying, do you approve this person to be out there, right? Jake's the guy that actually got the notification. Do you want to let him in? Does he look old enough or whatever? Probably should change that a little bit. Jake's approved him. Let's let him become a member. The Power Automate flow continues now, right? He's been approved. So what's happening is it's writing the organization record and the individual record to iMIS. We can see those two records were not only created, but then we sent out an email back to Jake so that he could go look up the information that was created in iMIS. So we took that information, we created the two new records, and now we sent out an email that said, hey, this is really cool, and let's go and see what we just did. So very simple sort of thing, but you let your imagination run wild, right? We create an organization person. We saw the use of Teams there. We saw the use of Microsoft Forms. Imagine all the other things of those 800 connectors that are out there that you could now, you don't just have to stop there with the email. You could go and do all sorts of other things, right? I bet you, I don't know if they have Shopify integration. I don't think they have, but you could maybe even send them a welcome gift. That would be really cool, right? Thanks for becoming a member. So really cool stuff. Jake, I'm letting you answer those questions. Okay. JT, is this mine or yours?
This is mine.
All right.
So this is a flow for when a gift over $500 is donated to our organization. And so what we want to do is we want to actually get the donor record with the iMIS ID, and then we want to post a message in a channel, maybe the fundraising channel. So kind of a different way of thinking of the steps of how to accomplish this. Essentially, the trigger is going to be when an activity is inserted. So we do have those conditional amounts. It's greater than or equal to 500. And we're looking for that specific gift activity. Then from there, we just want to find the iMIS record. We want to pull their iMIS ID. So we could maybe go jump right into their profile, see if this is a one-off kind of thing, or if they're been a donor and we should maybe give them a call. And then the last thing is we want to have transparency. We want people to be able to see this and act on it if they are able to. So we're going to post it to a Teams channel with the amount as well as the name of the person. So if we quickly go over to my Teams, you'll notice that there was a large gift and it tells you the amount as well as it gives you a link to actually go and view the profile. So this is allowing me to actually jump into iMIS and see what other kind of information, if they're a longtime donor, a brand new donor, and you just can get those additional insights to make a decision on calling them, thanking them, anything like that. This next one is powerful. You're essentially going into a channel and you're going to be running a report. And in this case, we have an IQA, two IQAs out there that calculate the total number of donations raised as well as the current member count. So this is going to just simply run the IQA and populate an adaptive card in Teams. Now, this is just an example of using Teams. You could have this be an email be sent out, or you could have this kind of intertwined with MailChimp or SurveyMonkey. So you can, like Doug's been mentioning, connect to different applications to really automate workflows. So if we take a different look at this, it's going to be a requested report. So I'm actually manually going and requesting the report from a drop-down selection. So the first one is the member counts. So it's essentially just executing and reading the IQA, and it's going to post those results into Teams. And then on the other hand, we have the total donations. So this is, once again, it's going to be reading the IQA and posting a card to the channel. And I'll quickly show this. The power here also drives from maybe your executive director or director of fundraising. They want to get statistics and they want it to be easy and not time consuming. This is definitely a way that you can accomplish that. So if we just go new conversation, workflows, and then we have this workflow report. So this is going to populate a little message, and this is where we actually tell Power Automate which query to run. And in this case, I'll run both, but we'll start with the total donations. So once that happens, you'll notice that it is going to be reading the IQA, and it has populated the number of donations in 2022. So we don't have to go back into iMIS or anything like that to get a report or get figures around donations. And if we do the other one, and we'll focus on maybe member counts. Someone in membership wants to run this maybe on a weekly basis, just to get additional insights into their current member counts. So we'll just simply select that report. And then once we submit, once again, it's going to be reading the IQA, and it is going to be telling us the number of members in our system. So obviously these are just two examples, donations and total members. You can do a lot of different things by executing the IQAs and reading the IQA rows and results. But with that, Doug, you have the
I have
funds.
a couple comments before you send me to the things. So one of the things that we didn't show that Jake had done before was he had emails coming in, and you can tie this into Microsoft AI. And he had showed this before, where it will identify whether the email is positive or negative based on the sentiment. So you could actually have Power Automate monitoring, say, feedback from your members or anybody else, and then based on that type of feedback, routing it to the appropriate person. So if it was positive feedback, like, hey, CSI, your products are amazing, I would get that email. If it was negative feedback, like, hey, CSI, I don't like this interface, that could route directly to Jake. So I love that kind of concept, right? You can use AI in this stuff. One of the great examples Jake had once shown us was here's a spreadsheet full of email responses. Based on the positivity or negativity in each of these responses, do different things. So that's just integrating AI into Excel and iMIS and Outlook and Teams, and I love that. And then before we get into the fun stuff, which is pricing, really good questions being asked and answered. We've got, hey, can you create a SharePoint folder? Yes, of course you can create a SharePoint folder. Can process automation, which is, it's actually, sorry, don't call it process, right? This is the iMIS connector, if you will, to that. So it's Power Automate, the iMIS Power Automate. So yes, can Power Automate identify existing organizations and members to avoid creating duplicate organizations and members? Yes. You can go, find, you can go search your database. So if JT were to put his information in, I could say, find a record out there that has a last name of Fiedler with jfiedler at csiinc.com email address. If you find it, cool, add an activity to that record. If you don't find it, create a new record. So some really interesting stuff you can do in terms of the workflow, adding new records or updating them and stuff like that. So some really great stuff that's been asked. Okay, JT, now you can take us to the bad slide, and I'm very disappointed you made me do this one.
Well, I'm actually gonna just jump in and show the interface of Power Automate and just how easy it is to add different steps and things like that. So if we just want to edit a flow that we have, you'll notice you just have to hit next step. And so what this is going to do is you're going to tell Power Automate, okay, next step in our process, we want to do a specific task. Maybe we want to go with something in MailChimp. So once we select MailChimp, we have all of these different results. So do we want to remove members from the list? Do we want to update member information? Do we want to show lists or list campaigns? So this is just allowing you to have multiple third-party applications intertwined into your daily routines. And that is kind of where the true power behind the connector is. And with that, Doug, I will now
turn over the yuckiness. All right, Jake, you have one more question from my friend Dave out there. So I don't know if you can match on subject or email. Oh, he's answering. Great. So Power Automate licensing is really interesting. You can license it on a per user basis, right? So if you have a power user at work that's going to go create all these flows, it's about $15 USD per month. I believe the AP pricing is a little different. I don't know exactly where it's at, but imagine it's in that realm, if you will. And this is really cool because you can create a licensed service user that runs under an Active Directory account, so you don't actually have to lock it into JT. If you really want to go from a big organization perspective, they will give you 5 workflows, if you will, for $500 per month. The pricing is different in Asia Pacific. I apologize for JT not giving you the proper pricing, because Microsoft does not charge in USD, which is really cool. But that's about that. There's some really other cool things you can do, some Azure Logic apps, if you will, so you can actually go and just only pay for what you use. So, hey, I'm only going to run this thing, 100 times a month. So the first 4,000 are free, which is really, really cool, especially if you have an Azure subscription. And then you got to pay us for the Power Automate connector. That's going to be based on your iMIS license size. And I hate to say it, I know what you're going to say. I only have one person writing these flows and whatnot. The fact is, we want to make this affordable to those smaller organizations, and we do that by making the larger organizations pay more. So I apologize about that. We do, as noted, those prices are discounted. The 250 and 750 are discounted for the US compared to the US people. The exchange rate is brutal right now. We're really aware of that. We're about splitting it with you, so we're eating about half of that horrific exchange rate for you. So those are not what people in the US pay. They pay more. You guys get a discount. We do care about you. I am on the board of NIAG Asia Pacific. That in your entire community in Asia Pacific means so much to me. I donate a lot of my time, and so we want to give back a little bit, and so we do discount this a little bit. But those are the prices that you can kind of get an idea for this stuff. So there's going to be some mix and matches. Totally open and honest here. You saw JT, he was showing some cool stuff. Some of those connectors that we talked about are premium. You might have to pay the other people some money. You can kind of figure it out and see what will be worth it. I guarantee you that any given flow will save enough time to pay for itself within a day or 3. So there's just so much power here. There's an anonymous attendee that says really extends the user capability in iMIS. I totally agree with that. If anything, iMIS is now playing with all the big people in the world, right? In terms of all the big, that was a terrible thing to say. You can't say that anymore. It's playing with every other, piece of software out there. And I love that, because no more like, well, I'm going to need to buy an expensive bridge, or iMIS doesn't connect to that, or, oh, that's going to be really expensive. We're really trying to make iMIS be extensible at a low cost. So that's our goal here at CSI. Like I said, that's all we do at CSI. So the more people that use iMIS, the happier we are. So how'd I do there, JT?
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Just 2 more things, and then open it up for questions, but I feel like Jake's been answering them along the way. Documentation, it's currently a work in progress, but you can access the documentation to kind of go into it, read about a little bit more and things like that. And then this ideal library. It's currently we're in beta testing, so it's an opportunity for people to share ideas of how they're actually utilizing Power Automate with their different applications and iMIS. So it will give you the ability to kind of see how others are using it in the community, and maybe even implement it into your own instance or workflow.
Hey, JT, where's our listserv? You're supposed to put our listserv on all these. You want to put that up there on the screen? So we are creating a product listserv for anybody using any of our products, that you'll be able to share ideas with other people using a CSI product. A lot of people are using it for the data management suite right now to share ideas and whatnot there. We're going to make JT find it. Otherwise, he's going to send it all to you personally with an apology. And so basically this listserv is the idea to get CSI customers talking, to say, listen, I just did something really cool with Power Automate. It's this, or I just did something really cool with the data management suite and whatnot. So JT, you getting that listserv right? There you go. Woo! There's the shortcut to our listserv. It's for our products. The vision I have is that a year from now, people are creating these cool Power Automate flows. They're sharing with each other. Hey, do you have something that integrates with MailChimp or whatever? There is a question from my friend Mark in there. Hey, we've got the MailChimp connector with Power Automate. Do I need this? I don't know, right? Power Automate, you're doing kind of a no code sort of integration. You could sort of do whatever you want. The MailChimp connectors, and there's a lot of them out there, they're fully, baked, if you will. They're all integrated with iMIS and whatnot. So someone has done all the integration work. But I would say that if you needed simple integration or you wanted to create your own integration, you'd use the Power Automate. You may look at it and decide this is less expensive. I had someone once ask, do I need the data management suite with Power Automate? Nah, you kind of wouldn't need to, but I will tell you the data management suite makes it so much easier to do things, right? Power Automate, you're going to have to create that flow. You're going to have to tell it where the spreadsheet is and what to do with each field. The data management suite, as you know, is kind of drag and drop. So Power Automate is this toolbox, or the Legos. You can build whatever you need to. Some of these other bridges, if you will, they're baked. You either like the way they look or work, or you create your own with Power Automate, which is really cool. So there is a question. Do we need to pay 3 fees? Microsoft Power Automate license? Yes. No to the Azure Logic apps. Jake's I think he might have, no to the Azure Logic apps. That would only be if you didn't want to pay the outer Power Automate fees. And I was still reading it, went away. But you would have to pay for the CSI iMIS Power Automate connector if you wanted to have iMIS in the mix. You could go and license Power Automate today, create a Microsoft flow that posts to Teams and does all sorts of fun stuff, and not have the iMIS connector. The iMIS connector is what puts iMIS into that ecosystem, if you will. So those fees all do come into play there. Thanks, Mark. IDMS is the best for EMS. As JT said, 61% of all EMS clients are using IDMS. We have added some great features to it, by the way. If you are an IDMS user, we just added the ability to import event regos, which I think is super cool. We've added the ability to have it talk to more than one database at the same time. So if you have a test and a live, or if you're a federated organization, some cool stuff like that, which I love. The next version coming out, hopefully by the end of the month, just adds so many more things. And then we'll do one more version for the end of the year. My team is pushing me and saying we have to stop putting so much time and effort into the data management suite, but I love it right now. I think it's making a huge difference. We want to hear what you need it to do, so we're there. And hopefully Jake answered that last question. Can we, yes, Jake, thanks so much. Hopefully everyone can see the Q&A. Jake's been answering some stuff like that. We want to get some more examples in our documentation, and I've talked enough. So
I do want to mention there is a question of, can we include the Q&A in the follow-up? And the answer to that is yes, I can definitely include that.
And we're doing another one of these Thursday at what time will that be? AP time, JT?
Late.
Yeah, I know. So if you are a night owl, let's see, we are going to be doing another one of these at 4 a.m. Sydney time. So if you're up at 4 a.m. and you're bored, you want to see this whole presentation again, we'll be doing that 4 a.m. on Friday morning for you. So really cool stuff. So
Doug, there is another question.
What? I love you, Doug, but
Pete...
not at 4 a.m. What? That's not a question. That's a statement. Jake's right. Let's see what Jake's response is. Power Automate and an alternative to Zapier. Does it do things better in your unbiased view? Really, Martin, really? Do you think we have an unbiased? I'll answer Daniel's one while Jake types his answer to Martin. Can Power Automate update the attendance for CEU points in an event? Update the registration list, that is. The current CEU, if you're talking like 2017 and whatnot, those are activities. And yes, it can. In terms of the actual writing to the certification module, you would need to use the data management suite for that to grab that activity and write to the certification. Oh, sorry, Daniel, on the iMIS EMS, you're on cloud, my bad. CU points an event in EMS, I think are still, if they are still activities, and I'm not 100% sure, then yes, but I don't know if they've written that different. I do want to point out Jake's response to Zapier, sorry. That Zapier is a third-party tool that is similar to Power Automate, but it's not Microsoft, right? We are a Microsoft shop at CSI. iMIS runs in the Azure cloud. A great example is when the webhooks appear for iMIS, or as Jake calls them, change notifications. Power Automate will support those natively. Zapier, they're going to have to write something for that. So there's cost differences, there's workflow differences and whatnot like that. We're a Microsoft decided to go all in on that. Zapier will often charge based on zaps, the number of calls and whatnot. They have a different pricing model for some things. I'm not going to knock it. If you're using it and it works, that's great. But we're all in on Power Automate here. Lots of great questions. Oh my goodness. All right, we're letting Jake. Can Power Automate connect docs to SharePoint? I believe the answer is yes. Jake is furiously typing right now, or possibly putting his kids to bed. One of the two is happening right now. Jake, thanks so much. A big help here. You really should turn on your camera and talk. Great, just so that people know he's not a bot. So great questions, you guys. Thank you so much for your time. We're so excited. We think this is going to change. It's going to change the iMIS world. All of our documentation, as you know, we publish in docs.csiinc.com. Another shout out to Jake there, because he does spend a lot of time. He's really, really good at documenting, and we're trying to make our Power Automate documentation really complete. And any questions you have for JT or at sales, any support questions you have are at support@csiinc.com. So, and the answer to can you connect Docs SharePoint? Yes, you can manipulate files in Power Automate and SharePoint. So with Power Automate and SharePoint. Wow, it's getting late. So as you saw, JT was actually showing a lot of those things live. It was 8:35 p.m. here on Tuesday night. So JT was doing those things live. The first one was a recording that I talked through, but JT was doing a lot of that stuff live. So the stuff works. It's great. If you have questions, please reach out to JT at sales@csiinc.com. We're really excited about this. I hope you are too. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. That concludes our webinar, but like Doug mentioned, if you do have any questions, I know after a call, you don't maybe have it, but then you have questions afterwards, feel free to email them to sales@csiinc.com, and I'll be able to get them answered for you. And with that, I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.